I'm Adams coming to you from KVEX Holler, and today I want to talk to our parents that are at home with their kids trying to help them and keep them going with their NTI days, and of course just a way to review your math with your kids even if it wouldn't be an NTI day. So I'm going to show you a few things that you could do with some things that you have right there at home. It doesn't have to be something from school. It's going to be concepts and things that they would be working with at school, but we're going to use materials and manipulatives or tools from home. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about just kids working on their counting and what we call one-to-one correspondence in our teacher world is that we just take anything, any type of tool to count. And they would just, of course I have here just some pasta that I found actually in my cabinet at home. You could use that. You could use, let's see, I have some Cheerios that I have in my cabinet actually. So you could use those. Just anything, you can be creative. I actually have some toothpicks, so you could just use something like that. So whatever you have at home that your kids could actually move and count will work perfectly for you. Also, another good little hint here is if you want to use cereal, Fruit Loops are awesome to use for lots of things for counting. They can sort them by color, or they can do patterns, or they can simply just count them. There's lots of things you can do with a cereal that has different colors that you can do those types of things with. So first of all, let's talk about what I was saying, which was one-to-one correspondence. So if you're working with your kids on just one-to-one correspondence, what you want to do is just, first of all, you can just ask them to count out a number of objects. If your little one is working, is in kindergarten, getting ready for kindergarten, then they're going to do a lot of work with one-to-one correspondence and just counting. So let's just practice just counting to 10. So they could 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you could do it that way. You could give the kids some and you could have them to count them, lay out a number. You can put several things into a cup. Lots of times I do that with my students when I was working with kids in the classroom. I would put something in the cup and they would just shake it around, dump it out, and count them, and count the one-to-one. And what's really good about this activity is you can actually tell them that they don't say the number until it actually hits the bottom of the cup. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you get the idea until they've counted the number of objects, whatever that happens to be. Okay, so that's just some ideas working on just one-to-one correspondence and counting. And of course, it's important when we're working with our kids on counting that we remember that, first of all, our kids, if you'll think about it, your kids started out just counting, saying things verbally, saying them out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then the next step is to start letting them understand what 1 looks like. Not necessarily the symbol 1, but what it looks like if you have just 1, and what it looks like if you have just 2. And then after they understand that, then we start showing them those symbols. So for example, a deck of playing cards is good to work with symbols. So if we want them to see what a 2 looks like, we can think about it this way. Think about that playing card. They have the symbol on here. They also can count. And if you want to, they can actually put something on those. 1, 2. And that way we're working on that one-to-one correspondence as well. And of course, most everyone has a deck of playing cards. If you don't have a deck of playing cards, you can use index cards and actually replicate that. Put the symbol on there, and then make 2 little symbols, 2 little circles if you want, 2 little squares if you want, anything that they could place something in. Right? So That's how we could work with counting, one-to-one correspondence, and learning what actually what those numbers look like. They're symbols. Using decks of cards and just items that you have at home. Now, next, I want to show you how we could actually work with what we call at school a 10 frame. And everyone, I'm sure, probably has an egg carton that you're ready to throw away, or that you've got a few eggs left in that you could probably use. So you take your egg carton, and I'm just going to cut the top off just so it will be out of my way. And get rid of that. Let's put this over here outside. And then what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off too, so it'll be out of our way. Okay, so after I've trimmed that down, then I'm going to cut off, obviously there's 12 for a dozen eggs. I'm going to cut off the last 2. And now we have a little 10 frame. Now kids if they're in school, they've worked with the 10 frame in the primary classroom. It may have been something that was drawn out just on a sheet of paper that had squares, 2 rows of 5 squares, what we call a 10 frame, but this will be a lot more fun for the kids to do. So what you can do is you can just have the kids take these tools again, whatever you've decided to use with them, and they can build you a number. For example, if I wanted them to build the number 8, then they could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they could talk about what 8 looks like. Well, you can see it's a row of 5 and 3 more. Is there another way we could do 8? Lots of times I've had students that don't really like to fill up the whole first 5, and that's okay if they don't. Lots of times I've had kids that would like to look at what we call doubles, and they'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is perfect because they can see that that's a 4 and a 4, and that 4 and 4 is 8. So and of course they can do it any way that they would like to. So just a fun way to work with building numbers. And then also you can work with the kids on adding and subtracting numbers with this also, of course within 10. So for example, you would have them build the number 8. And you'd say, well, okay, let's take away 3. So if you had 8 and you take away 3, they could reach in and take out 3 of those and see that 8 take away 3 would leave them with 5. So, and of course you could always do the opposite of that. You could build a 4, have them build 4, and tell them, okay, let's add 5 to that. So if you add 5 to that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course they can see that that is a 5 and a 4, which is 9. And it's nice when they can see that there's 1 missing, so they know it's 9, because if it was all filled up, it would be 10. So those are the types of things that you work with your kids, and of course you'll while they're doing that, you're talking to them about what they see and what they've built and all the numbers that they've built. Now, another thing you could also do with this, in order to make it a little more fun for the kids possibly, is I'm sure you have dice at home, and probably not these big large dice, but we have dice that are in our board games. So you can roll this dice to generate your numbers for the kids. So you can roll the dice and have them put that number in there, roll the dice again, have them add to that, roll the dice again, or have them subtract, or take that away. So different things you could do, or just roll the dice and build the number. Wherever they're at, whatever they're able to do, without being without struggling and being frustrated with it. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is a little activity that I call Split the Pot. And with Split the Pot, I actually have a little container that's divided right down the middle. Well, you may not have one of those containers at home, but you can actually still do this activity with the kids. You can just take a paper plate and just draw a line right down the middle and divide it in half. And then you can take some objects, and I'm going to use the pasta this time for this one. And let's say I want to work on the number 6, ways to make 6. So I can make sure that they count out that they have 6 in their hand, and they hold it above it, and they just drop it. Okay? So you can see that it landed in 2 parts. I've got 3 over here and 3 over here. So 3 and 3 is a way to make 6. And then we can do it again. Holding it in your hand. Drop. Okay. The problem with it being just a line is sometimes I have to decide. So it's more this way than it is there. So I'm going to push it on over. So you can decide that's how you're going to do it. So we have 3 and 3 again. So let's try it, see if we can get something different this time. So here I've got 5 and 1. So 5 and 1 is a way to make 6. Right? So just another little twist on how to play, on how to build numbers and thinking about adding and subtracting with numbers. Okay? Now, let's talk about what I call a grow and shrink board. And a grow and shrink board actually is just another version of a 10 frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some little dots. And notice how I'm putting them in 2 rows of 5. And of course, with this, you can use the dice. And you roll the dice, and whatever the dice lands on, that's the number that they build, or the kids will build on the grow and shrink board. Okay, so I roll a dice and I get a 1. So I'm going to use the little Cheerios this time. So I'm going to put 1 on there. Roll the dice, and I've got a 6. So I have to make that 1 become a 6. So the question is, what do I have to do to make that 1 become a 6? Well, I'm going to have to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on. Okay, and you'd ask the kids. If they just do it without counting, then you ask them, how many did you have to put on? And let them see if they can figure that out. Then you roll the dice again, and it's a 1. And so what are you going to have to do to this to make that 6 become a 1? And of course they're going to say, I'm going to have to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I removed 5. And it can go back and forth and back and forth. Now if you don't have a dice, you can actually use these playing cards as well. They can draw a card. Let's draw a card. 5. So let's make that become 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now let's draw another card. Let's make that 5 become a 6. So I've got 5. What do I have to do to make it become 6? I have to put 1 on. So you get the idea. Back and forth, back and forth. So using just your number, you don't want to use your face cards, but using your aces 1, of course, up to 10 with your cards. So another way to play with what's called the grow and shrink board. Now, let's talk about what we call storyboards. Now with storyboards, they're usually just drawings that don't have any type of characters or anything like that that would classically be in a story, but they have just a setting or a scenery or a background. So, you probably more than likely have magazines at home that would have some type of setting or scenery that the kids could look at. So, here for example is a setting of, you can see it's out in the field, you have the tree, and you got the mountains, you got the sky, and what you let the kids do is you let them come up with a story, a math story about what could be happening in this space. And so, again, they can use these same old tools, just another way. So, let's say that they want to tell a story about some birds that are flying around up in the sky. So, let's say there are 5 birds flying around in the sky, and 2 of those birds landed in the tree. So how many birds are left flying in the sky? So the kids love to do this. They love to pretend, they love to tell these stories. You can, of course, find different backgrounds. If they have their little toys at home, they could use their toys. There's little, I know lots of our little guys have those little toy cars and things like that at home. So, for example, they can get those out and actually use those. So here's one with a little road. So we go perfect with these little cars that we have here. So let's say that my little kindergarten would love to tell these stories, and they would say, okay, I had 2 cars racing on the road, and one of them ran off the road. So how many cars are left on the road? And of course they say, okay, there's 1. So they love to make up those math stories using these storyboards, and magazines are a perfect place to find something for them to create and come up with stories. Another thing you could do is you could just use, and I'm sure you probably have these at home if you've got little ones, and you probably have coloring books. So you can take these coloring books and they can actually come up with stories about what's going on in this picture. So these would be lots of fun for the kids to do. Or you could ask them questions. Well, how many different types of bugs do you see dancing on the stage? And they could do their practice their one-to-one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, what if one of them fell off the stage? How many would be left on the stage? So they could probably actually just cover one up and see how many would be left. So, just asking lots of questions, lots of conversation. Here, we could ask the kids, how many cows do you see? How many bulls do you see? Talking about the difference between the 2. This one here, they could come up with a story. How many Indians are hiding behind the tree? Those types of things. What do you think is going to happen next? Pull in some storytelling as well, along with this math activities. And of course, we can use our books, these storybooks. We can always use these storybooks. They're worth, we can do more than just read these stories. We can pull in some math along with these stories. So you can flip through there, come up with some questions that you could ask the kids. Like this one, of course, you can see how many trees do you see on the top? How many pigs do you see? How many cows do you see? How many little chicks do you see? And the kids can practice their counting, their one-to-one. So you can use those storybooks as well for those types of things. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is talking to the kids about comparison. Kids sometimes have a hard time understanding shorter, longer, shorter, taller, those types of things. So we could actually use some things that we have at home. Let's take these little candlestick holders, okay? So, obviously you can see that they are different heights. It might be hard for you to see this way, so let's just leave it this way. So we could ask them to order them from shortest to tallest. So they could pull out the shortest one, and then make a pair and see this one will be next, and this one will be next, from the shortest to the tallest. And then you could ask them, okay, let's go from the tallest to the shortest. So you mix them all back up again, and they go from tallest, comparing again, to the shortest. Right? Might seem like something simple for us, but for our little ones, some of them will struggle with that. You can also do the same thing with, if you don't have candlesticks, and obviously you could use just cans that you have in your kitchen cabinets. Just get out different sizes of cans and let them order them from shortest to tallest, smallest to largest. Use those types of words with your kids. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is looking for patterns. Looking for patterns in nature. When you're out walking around with your kids, they can talk about looking for patterns and see what happens in nature. Looking for see what might happen to be on, if they notice it's on every vehicle, maybe in a parking lot. They see that there's four tires, and then four tires, and then four tires, those types of things. They can look at flowers and think about the number of petals that are on each flower, looking at those types of patterns in nature. Another thing that you can do with your kids is you can go on a shape hunt. And with the shape hunt, obviously it depends on what they're ready to do, but you could show your kids, okay, today we're going to look for things that are shaped like a square. So show them what it looks like. And then they could go around the house looking for things that are shaped like a square. And maybe you could take pictures of them and have pictures of everything that looks like a square. Or maybe you could just write them down, make a list of things that they found that looks like a square. And the next day, you could work with things that are shaped like a circle. So you go around finding things that are shaped like a circle. And again, same way you want to. If you want to record them down, write them down for the kids. If you want to have them draw maybe little pictures, they might enjoy doing something like that. Or to use that phone and take pictures of what they find. So once they get really good at that, then you can move into what we call three-dimensional. These are two-dimensional because they're flat shapes. Of course, you can do the triangle and you can do the rectangle and all those types of things. But once they're got really good at that, then you can actually look at three-dimensional shapes. So three-dimensional shapes would be like a basketball, which is what we call a sphere. They don't have to remember that word. If they can remember that word and use that word, that's awesome. But they need to understand what it looks like. And then they would go around see if they could find things that are shaped like a sphere. And then they could go on a shape hunt the next day for things that look like a cube, like the dice that you may have at home. Finding things that look like a cube. And then after they find things that look like a cube, then possibly they could find things that look like what we call a rectangular prism. They're similar to the cube, but the cube, of course, has all sides the same size, same shape. And here, obviously, they're not all the same size. So they could be looking for those types of things. And of course, keeping a list of it for the kids, ever how you want to record for them. Because when they find it, they're going to be excited and they're going to want you to write it down for them. And then, of course, the next would be the cylinder. So they could find things that are shaped like a cylinder. There's lots of things in our home that are shaped like a cylinder. So the kids will have lots of fun hunting and going on those shape hunts with you each day. Now, the last thing I want to talk with you about is counting money. For our little ones that are ready to start talking about counting money, it's so important that we continue to do that with them. So obviously, our little ones are just working on identifying what these coins are. So you could just pull out your change that you have in your pocket. There's nothing better than the real thing for them to actually see it. So you can pull each one out and talk about what it is. Just the name of it for our little kindergarten students. Just what it is, the name of it. And of course you can see. Let's put this on this background so you can actually see it a little better. You can see that I've got the penny and the nickel and the dime and the quarter. And then for our little first graders, they start talking about how much each one's worth, like the penny would be 1 cent, the nickel would be 5 cents, your dime would be 10 cents, and your quarter 25 cents. And then 2nd grade, they start adding this money together. So we don't want our kids to get frustrated. So I always like to, when I was teaching money with my students in the classroom, I always started with just 1 coin and adding the pennies to it, because it's easy for them to count on by ones until they get and understand what's going on with it. So if we got a penny, we got 5, and 1 more would be 6, and another penny would be 7. And then you could do the same thing with the dime, 10, 11, and 12. And then the same thing with the quarter, 25, 26, 27, right? So, and then of course you can start combining dimes and nickels, and then put some pennies on when they're ready. And then you can introduce the quarter, counting with the quarter, and put the nickels with it first, because it's easier for them to count on by 5s. 25, 5 more, 30, 5 more. I don't have another nickel, but 5 more, of course, would be 35. And then, of course, you can throw in those dimes. 25, 35, 45, which is 10 more each time. And then you start mixing all your coins together, but not until they're ready. We don't want to frustrate our kids. We want to meet them where they're at and take them a little further each time we work with them. So that's all I had to share with you today. I hope this will help you when you're working with your little ones at home. And God bless you. And thank you for watching.